Good morning, everyone. Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar presentation, Putting the Care Back in Healthcare, a RES software and Gordian Dynamics overview. We do have a few housekeeping items to cover before we get started, so please note, due to the amount of attendees, everyone will be muted for the duration of the webinar. However, should you have any questions, we will do a Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to submit your questions using the chat module. Also, please note that the webinar is being recorded and will be distributed within the next 24 hours. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to today's presenters, Gordian Dynamics, Joanna Burley, and RES Software's Jason Pollock and Mike Whitehead.
Thank you, Morgan. My name is Joanna Burley, and I am Gordian Dynamics Director of Sales. Gordian Dynamics is an IT consulting firm that specializes in healthcare. We have experience with large enterprise healthcare systems as well as smaller clinics and community hospitals. We touch on all levels of infrastructure from the data center to the endpoints, helping clinicians get the information that they need in a safe and secure manner. Our biggest strength and the value that we bring to our customers is the fact that we are solely based and focused on healthcare. We understand what pain points healthcare IT teams deal with day in and day out. We also understand who your end users are and how important it is to get them the information that they need. We have partnered with RES Software as we saw the value that they bring to the healthcare vertical, and by bringing their solutions into our clients' environments, we have been able to help them solve critical business and IT challenges that they've been facing. So I wanted to quickly go over some of our core offerings. And as we go through the RES demo in just a little bit, you will see how RES really fits into a majority of our offerings, which is another reason that they have become a strategic partner for us. So around enterprise mobility, we have experience with VDI using Citrix, VMware, AirWatch, or any other technology our clients may have already invested in. We have implemented a VDI solution for a large San Diego-based healthcare system, allowing their IT teams to be able to work from home. We also work with Microsoft Intune, managed by SCCM. Around Microsoft Cloud Enablement, we have expertise in Office 365 as well as Azure AD. Infrastructure and security kind of speaks for itself. In order to support a lot of these technologies, we understand the need for a robust and secure infrastructure, especially when we're talking about healthcare. Emerging technologies, this is really where RES fits in, as we at Gordian Dynamics take pride in partnering with the best solutions on the market that will bring value to our customers by improving their IT environment, but also lowering costs and, most importantly, creating a better end user experience. And when it comes to IT operations, we have been able to take on some of the day-to-day operations, providing around-the-clock support for our clients, so they are able to free up some of their employees to work on other projects or tasks. So without further ado, I'd like to pass along the presentation to Jason Pollock, and we can get into the RES demonstration.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Morgan, and everybody on the line for allowing us to show a little bit about RES software today. We will quickly go through a couple slides here just to explain who we are and what we're doing in the industry at a high level, and then just quickly jump into a demonstration from Mike Whitehead, who is the engineer for the West Coast and also a former customer of ours as well. So I'll just start by saying, RES is technology for people in healthcare. We very much are focused on the clinicians and delivering patient care at a high quality. And we're focused on doing that efficiently, securely, like Joe mentioned before with Gordian's big initiatives around user experience. That's the same for RES as well. We're all about making sure that we create an experience that users are used to in their home life. Ever since the cell phone has come out, the smartphone, and people have stuff on demand and so on, we want to be able to offer that in the hospital and the enterprise. So moving along with that, just to let you know a little bit with healthcare, we definitely know what we're doing. It's 80% of our business. This is just a quick snapshot of some customers that we have in the healthcare. A lot of these are Gordian customers as well. So I'd like to just show that just for a minute. I'm not a real big fan of the me slides, but I figure since we've got people on the line here who may not know about us, it's always nice to be able to show that we have recognition from the analysts and some of the bigger vendors and some of the bigger shows out there. So you can also find any of this material on the website if you'd like to read a little bit more about it. So I guess really what I'd like to start with on this slide is, today's experience in IT and for the user, when a new person comes on board at a hospital, is they come on board, and a lot of you may be able to relate to this. In some of your hospitals, you may do student nursing and so on, or have doctors that moonlight. They're coming in and out of the hospital. They need access to the EMR. There's special rights that they have to do that. Sometimes that can create delays, but more importantly, that's current employees. What about the new ones that come on? When they come on, typically they put a ticket in, they're issued a device, they put it, they're according to how they're listed in the HR system. Hopefully they get access. Maybe it's a manual checklist or something in the hospital to add this person to specific groups or give them access to specific applications, all that good stuff. And how that works usually is you'll have a scenario of tickets going back and forth between IT, the user, or the hiring manager, or the manager themselves, and it's just a long, drawn-out manual process and a lot of people waiting. What we really believe is an 80-20 rule, which you're going to look at on the right-hand side of the screen here. Honestly, what we think is 80% of what that person requires, that user requires, we should be able to recognize right off the bat intellectually. So 20%, they should be able to go get it from a self-service catalog or a self-service store. So that's our new way of thinking. Is a person comes in with multiple devices, they automatically are provisioned what they should be provisioned. They're up and working day one. Anything else that they need, they can go to a service store, which is similar to iTunes or Google or Amazon, and get whatever they need. Now that just doesn't mean applications. That could be a badge, that could be a parking spot, that could be whatever. But that's really what we're about, and the magic is behind the automation layer here, which you're seeing that circles this box. The automation is key to making everything work for us, and we have 3 products in our suite. One is the request phase, which is the service store, then the automation phase, which is the magic and the engine behind everything, then of course the consumption phase, which is how we manage that user to make sure the experience is good for both the user and also secure for IT as well. So as we go through the demo today with Mike in a minute, really there are 6 areas of value. These are examples. We bring value in lots of ways, but these are 6 big ways that we bring value to the organization. I'm not going to go through each one in detail. This thing will be posted online and so on, and of course if there's any questions afterwards we can definitely go through this individually. But onboarding and offboarding, which we just spoke about, service desk automation. One of the things that's so big with Res is our ability to reduce the service desk tickets and really lower the cost of IT by doing that. And just the what happens there is by doing that, the actual help desk workers have the ability to focus on more important issues as opposed to redundant password resets or configuration requests or application requests, these types of things. Desktop modernization, Gordian does a great job with VDI, Citrix, VMware, all that good stuff out there, and Res is a great layer to add to that to make sure the experience is pristine and adopted across the user base. Software and hardware asset management. As we go through the demo, we're really going to get in and show you how we can help with license, leasing, metering, and usage tracking to reduce the overall spending. Workforce enablement is really the category that the analysts are putting us in right now. It's quite interesting. It's a new category, but that's what we're being recognized as. The ability to get the new employee, or perhaps it's a student nurse or doctor in training or whatever that may be, up and running day one. So time to value is huge for us. And then as Joanna said when she was closing her slide out, security is very, very important. constantly we're talking with hospitals and healthcare organizations about audits and HIPAA and so on, and we're here to help you to make sure that you stay compliant with HIPAA, and also eliminating different layers of security that may not need to be there that could affect the user experience. And Mike will get into that as well, and that's around application whitelisting. So we'll get into that. You know, I put this up here because this is a local hospital up in the area, and this is one of our customers, more recent customers in the last couple of years. This is just a statement from their CIO of their Felix Expo. It's all on our website as well under resources, press releases, and case studies. This is just an example. I like to put this up because it's an example of where RES sits. Now, ignore the technologies of Lawson System Center VMware because it doesn't matter what your HR system is. It doesn't matter what your ITSM is. We don't care if it's Epic, Meditech. We don't care about, you know, of course, Imprivata's kind of a standalone solution there. No one really competes with them, it seems like. And, of course, Citrix VMware. And then System Center, your PCLM software is, whether it's System Center, Altiris, whether you have Max and you're using Casper, doesn't matter to us. This slide is really, my goal here is to show our integration capability. We can integrate anywhere, but we sit right under the HR system, and then we're basically an aggregator of all your technologies. I like to say we really like to take all these technologies the last mile. As we go through the demo, you're going to see how we can complement each and every one of these technologies. There's specific things that we'll do for them that really, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool. So I'm excited to get into that. So another way for me to kind of explain where RES sits in the infrastructure or what we do, I like to show this market landscape slide. Because, you know, people will say, is RES an IAM company? Are you an ITSM? Are you a UEM? Well, absolutely. We're all of these. We touch a lot of different areas. The good thing about it is you don't have to take it all on at once. We give that flexibility to slowly plug and play different pieces as needed based on your budget, based on your time, your resources, everything. So if you look on this slide and you can identify with any of these different tasks and so on in these different spaces, this is what we're going to come in and address. I really like this slide because it tells what our UEM product will do, you know, what we've been doing since the 90s, and of course how we can plug into your existing ITSM solution and help with that. And then if we talked about a little bit about IAM and so on. So this is just a great slide to show really from a feature function perspective how we would touch these different areas. You know, I kind of like to close out with this, you know, top 5 benefits, kind of simplify things here. You know, these are really what I think the top 5 benefits, not just me, I guess, you know, our organization in general is, you know, increased productivity for clinical caregivers. We want to lower IT management costs to therefore have higher productivity and impact for IT. Biggest thing is to vastly improve the experience through context-aware security and compliance, and also increase the adoption rate of EPR systems for true ROI. So these are just you know, top 5 benefits I see in healthcare. If you can relate to any of these, then you're on the right webinar. So based on that, it's really my end done here. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass this over to Michael Whitehead, who actually is a customer of ours as well, and perhaps he can introduce himself and tell his story, and then start with the demo.
Yeah, thanks, Jason, and thanks for everybody for your time today and taking a look at Gordian Dynamics and RES software together. So today I'm going to show you a demonstration that kind of touches on some of the points that Jason mentioned, and what it comes down to is increasing the operational efficiency of delivering IT, automating the manual processes that exist today, getting the IT services into the user's hands more quickly so that they can be more productive and have the tools and resources they need to do their job. When you go back to that, you know, slide that Jason referenced where he's talking about the 80-20 rule, right? And also if you kind of look at where we sit into the technology stack of right underneath Lawson is really we understand the organization and we know where people are, who they are, what type of entitlements they have, what projects they might be on, all of that contextual information about the organization, and then we're able to intelligently act upon that and deliver services just because we know who a user is and where they are and what they're doing with the organization. So to start, I'm going to onboard a new employee into the organization, and this is going to be your first look at the Res Service Store once I get logged in here. So typically in a lot of organizations today, right, to onboard a new employee, as Jason referred to, it's a lot of manual work, a lot of exchange of tickets from hiring manager, from HR to IT, then the user might get involved. At the end of the day, the user still doesn't have what they need, and it could take several weeks to get that up and running. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start showing you the power of our automation and how we could take all of those manual tasks and put them into an automated workflow so that we can deliver these things very, very rapidly, and then also put control of who gets what, when they get it, and then also when they no longer qualify for things. So my guinea pig for today, I'm going to use Morgan, who's hosting our call, and I'm going to say Morgan is in the medical staff, and she is in, say, our Los Angeles office. And her title, let's say she is a doctor, and say she's just going to be with the organization for, a couple weeks. All right. I'm going to put my own email address in here just for shock and awe. And I'll put my mobile phone number in here as well. Now, by me just simply putting in a couple of information, typically, the often dreaded word ticket, put in a ticket for that, put in a ticket for that. Well, what I just did is I just, essentially ticked off a workflow. I put in a couple input parameters, and that's now taken that. And right now you're looking at the back-end console of our technology, and I can see that I've now kicked off a transaction here to add a user to my HR system. As Jason said, we don't care what HR system you use or what ERP system or what payroll system that you use. You can use whatever one. We've got the ability to integrate with them. I'm going to click in. We're going to take a look at this workflow as it's progressing. So this is where we're automating business process. And if you look at how this workflow is defined, the very first step in this workflow is I had to provide that information. And I can click in here, and if I take a look, right, this is where I provided the first name, title. This is where I captured all of the information I need in order to perform this automated task. The next thing I've done is I've just put some compare attributes in here, right? And the one thing I want to call out about these workflows is that they are as customizable as you want them to be, right? So this is how I'm collecting data in my organization. This is how I'm messaging, and this is how I've built the workflow, right? But this workflow can be built anyway. Every customer that Res has, they all use different technology. They all have different processes to deliver that technology, and Res is agile to support our customers with that. So if we keep on looking down at this workflow, right, we can see that we've kicked off some automation. Right, and we've now taken all of that information that we collected, right, like Morgan's name, right, my phone number and stuff that I inputted, and we sent it to a task to actually create a user in the HR system, right, assign a user, a manager to that user. And at the end of the day, right, in a very short period of time, we were able to do a whole host of things, right. So now I'm going to come back and take a further look at our transactions, and we can see that we are now delivering services to Morgan, right? Now she gets a Windows user account. I now can click on Morgan, and we've now ingested Morgan. She's now in our identity warehouse. So now we know information about her, and we can now take action upon this stuff. I know where she is in the organization. It's will soon be populated in. I know what services she's qualified for and what services that are being delivered to her. So right now, Morgan currently, based on her role, qualifies for 104 services that she can request from the service store. On top of that, right, we've already delivered her 13 services that have been automatically delivered. And as a result of her getting services, she now, as you can see, qualifies for additional services, 115 services. But, in a matter of a couple minutes ago, Morgan didn't even work here. And now, right, she's a doctor, so she has the Epic access for being a doctor, right? She's got access to the application she needs. We know that she's in LA, so we're giving her access to the printers and the resources that are in that LA office, right? We're giving her access to her desktops, a whole host of things, and this is just going to continue coming, right? Giving her Cerner access in this instance. I can do a little refresh here. Look, now we have 17 services that have been delivered to her. So this is all, automatically happening. There's nobody in IT that's doing this. It's just we understood who Morgan is, we know about her, and we're making action decisions based on that. This could go alternative, right? You saw me drive all of this from our console, right? Typically in a lot of organizations we work with is that all of the work is done in the HR system, whether it be Lawson or ADP or SAP, and as changes happen at the HR level, we're automatically recognizing those changes and delivering services as a result. So I can now, right, let's just do one quick brief over, right? In a matter of a couple minutes, we've delivered 24 services to Morgan. With that, I now know what Morgan has, right? I can always come back in here and I can see what services Morgan's currently subscribed to. And if we take a look at a service here, and we've got qualifications set up on these services so that this is who qualifies for the service. And as soon as you qualify for it, you're automatically going to get it. All right, it's automatically going to kick off this workflow to deliver this, and then as soon as you no longer qualify, you're going to define a workflow to get this back and to return these services. So as soon as the user changes in the organization or they leave the organization, we're automatically going to undo their Cerner access or their Epic access and so forth. But what's more than powerful, I think, is that a couple minutes ago, all right, Morgan didn't work here, and now Morgan can start logging into desktop. So the log in here is Morgan. So instantly, right, Morgan can start logging in. IT didn't have to do any, work to get that performed. It was all happened automatically. And now we're going to start consuming desktop. So I'm going to launch a Windows 7 desktop here for Morgan, and we're also going to launch a Windows 8 desktop. And this is going to step into our capabilities around user environment management, right? Because again, we're very focused on workforce productivity, making sure that the organization can move and be enabled to do the work that they need to do. So with that, right, we want technology to be very, point of non-contention for any of the users that are out there, where they can seamlessly roam from a Citrix session to a physical desktop and, mobile devices or, devices inside the organization and be able to have a very consistent experience as they're, moving around. So as I'm logging in, right, our technology is also understanding context about who I currently am and where I currently am. Things like what type of device am I currently on, right? Where am I currently located right now, like physically located? All of this, contextual information, and it's now dynamically configuring a workspace that's, configured just for me. So when I onboarded Morgan, we said she was in the medical staff, so now she's getting the medical staff workspace, all happening, automatically. Let's also now switch over to going to switch over to my Windows 7 desktop here, right, to show you that as I'm going from a Windows 7 desktop over to a Windows 8 desktop, right, my experience is now seamless. I don't have to manage multiple images in my environment, right? I've got a single gold image, but my configuration is applied based on my context when I log in. So now that I'm logged in, right, IT did a pretty good job at, delivering a lot of things that I need, but now I'm going to want a little bit more, and that's where end user can now go into the service store to be able to now consume additional technology as opposed to putting in a ticket. So let's log into the service store and let's start consuming additional things, right? Say I needed to change my office phone number. I could click in here and I can update my phone number. Say I wanted to get an application, right? Say I want to also maybe get some more space in something like my email, right? Say I wanted to increase my mailbox quota. Let's increase this up to, say, 2 gigs here, right? So rather than getting an application, now I'm getting more of a service, more of a request type item saying, hey, I need, extra quota in my mailbox. We can see that this stuff is already starting to be delivered. All right, I'm going to come in here. I've got that 7-zip application that was just delivered to me. Now, I just did this to my Windows 7 desktop, but again, for that user experience, to make sure that I can roam, I'm going to come over here and look. I've got notified that I've got the 7-zip here in my Windows 8 desktop as well. So because we hold that subscription model, the services that I'm consuming are roaming with me. And now that I start using these applications, right, so I'm going to come in here and say, I'm going to start launching my Outlook. All right, let's maybe bring up another application as well. Bring up, Word. My Outlook has automatically, again, been configured for me because it knows, who I am and where I am. That was instant. When I, do something like create a new email, I don't even have to worry about setting up my signature as a new user, right? The stuff knows that I'm a doctor, medical staff, it knows my phone number, and all this kind of stuff is automatically being configured for me. Now that I start using this application, right, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to personalize this application for myself, right? So I, as a user, you know what, I might actually like the gray office theme, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put that gray theme on. And you know what, I might actually also like things like these rulers and grid lines on. Let's go ahead and do that. As soon as I close this application, our technology is going to the file system and the registry, and it's going to abstract any changes that made. It's going to centralize it. And that's what allows the user to be able to seamlessly go from things like a Windows 7 desktop to a Windows 8 desktop, or from a physical session to a Citrix session, and be able to have that exact same experience. Because I can come in here, now my Windows 8 desktop, let's come and bring up my Word application, right? And when I clicked on that application, the first thing that it did is it went in and said, hey, let's make sure that this app is the exact same way it is the last time this user used it, regardless of from where they used it. And as you can see, my Windows 7 machine now, there's that gray office theme that I literally said a minute ago. There's these rulers and grid panes, and it was seamless. It didn't require a log on or a log back off. I was able to go from one session to another. Essentially how we do that is we intercept the process at the kernel level before we allow Windows to take it over, and that gives us the ability to inject your settings, inject any kind of configuration, ensure that you're able to use that application based on your current context. And one of the advantages of us being able to do that is to being able to elevate processes as well. Things like, in Windows, you need to be an admin to change your date and time, right? I'm going to show you where we can elevate this. And sorry, guys, I currently have this restricted. Let's see if I have another elevation here. All right, so I won't be able to show you that, but typically what we would do is, because we can elevate the process, we can assign an admin token to it, so that your users don't need admin, full-blown admin to everything. They can just grant them admin to the things that they need. And I know that we're just bumping really close here to the end of the session here, and I just wanted to show you one other thing in regards to usage, right? I've just done a lot of things in my session. I was able to do this automatically as a user. It didn't require any IT involvement. But one thing that Rez also provides the ability is to have a good understanding of what users are using in the environment, when they're using it, where they're using it from, and then be able to also use this analytics to make good decisions on some things as well. Right, so in this session, right, I know that these are applications that I've run. This is where I'm running them from, right? Application, this is the time it was launched, where it was launched from, when it was launched, when this application ended. And I can use this data to make sure that I'm optimizing my software licenses, my resources. So for example, if an end user got an expensive application that they don't end up using, we have the analytics and the capability to automatically roll that stuff back. Because again, for everything that you deliver, how you deliver a service, right, you're also going to define how do you get that service back. So that's just, just kind of dusting the cover off of our capabilities. And, I think I'll hand it over to Jason or Morgan to see if we have any questions coming in or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any questions, Mike, but you do have a few minutes here. Was there any other things that you wanted to show? If we don't have any questions, Morgan, do we have any?
We do. I'm so sorry. I thought I had unmuted myself. Mike, thank you for that great demonstration. We do have a couple questions that actually kind of go hand in hand. So I'll start with this first one. Your solution covers a broad array of technologies. What's usually the starting point, or does it vary by account?
Yeah, for every customer, it's usually different, right? So for some customers, they have a very burning need around self-service password reset, right? It's a very common ticket driver, so we'll usually go in and we'll attack one thing, and that usually starts with something different. Some other customers might be starting a VDI initiative, and they need some capabilities to provide non-persistent VDI and to make VDI really scalable, but also to have that user experience that user kind of migrated into VDI, so that when they get into that VDI desktop, that adoption is, so every customer has different starting points with their technology. Some people might just want to automate onboarding and offboarding. There's a lot of different things, and it's just depending on the need of the customer, if that answers it right.
Yeah, great. Let's see here, another question coming in. How does the license approval get handled when it has a cost associated with it?
Yeah, so we can go into a little bit of actually building out this workflow, because, if I take a look at one of the services that I requested from Morgan, it was a mailbox quota. And I bring that up is because that does require an approval. So if I take a look at the transactions, I can see that this one is still actually pending. And it's pending, and I can come in here and say, it's actually pending. Mike Whitehead needs to approve it, right? Now, if I take a look at the service store from Morgan's perspective, all right, if we come back into our desktop here, from Morgan's perspective, she's got a message in here saying, that this request that I'm currently waiting for is waiting approval from Mike. I can step back over to, can we get somebody to mute? I think I'm getting an echo. There we go. So I'm going to come back, back over to my service store, and this is where the approval is brokered, because, it said it's waiting for approval on me. I've got this message that, hey, we need somebody to approve this. Let's go ahead and approve that. But really, it comes down to building the workflow that you want to build and deliver the technology that you want to deliver and how you want to deliver it, right? Because you build this the way that it works in your environment. Some places might require an approval, some places might not. So if we go into actually building a workflow, right, I'm going to come in here. Let's build a new service. And I'm going to come to the workflow of the service, and let's edit this right here. The very first thing in the workflow is a trigger, right? And what triggers this workflow is A, when people qualify, let's just automatically provision it, right? Or when people qualify, let's give them the ability to request it, right? And now that they've requested it, right, it's going to now kick off to the next part. And this is where now I might need to put an approval transaction. So I'm going to now put in this action right here. Who's going to approve this? Well, let's say the manager needs to approve it, or let's say some administrator or help desk needs to approve it. I can build smart rules to determine who's the approver in each case. Let's say the manager needs to approve that. We go ahead and click OK here. And then I can even put conditions in here as well, right? So say that, say if you are already a manager, right, you'll automatically get this. We don't need to request approval, right? Or say if you are in a certain department, right, we know that you automatically get it, no approval necessary. But if you're not in that department, then it needs to kick off an approval, right? Another thing that you can do, if you only have a certain amount of licenses available, right, then you can do something like this right here, limit number of subscribers. So if I only had, say, 50 licenses of an application, I can say that I only have 50 in here. And then once the 51st person goes to request this, I can then stem off a workflow, right here, that if it rejects, well, now we need to then kick off a task to procurement to procure more licenses. Or so, I hope I'm conveying it. Really, it comes down to delivering the technology that you want to deliver and delivering it by the process that you want to deliver it by. And then at the end of the day, right, you're going to build this return workflow as well, is how do I get this technology back when the user no longer qualifies for it, no longer using it, right, or they decide to cancel it themselves, or they've been removed from the organization altogether.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for that, Mike. We are a little over time, but we do have another great question. I just want to see, Mike, how are you doing on time for your schedule? Can you answer one more for us?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. So this one's asking the Win10 migration question. So it's just asking what kind of role would you play in the Win10 migration that we're considering for our organization, and how would it help?
Yeah, so the big thing is you get us in today, right, and get us start to capturing personalization and the user profiles of users today. It's seamless. It runs into the background. Users don't notice anything. It's very, very easy to implement, and then there is no Windows 10 migration. And, I think the biggest example of that is really if you take a look at what I've done here, right? On this Windows 7 machine, I set personalization in my Word application here, and I was able to go seamlessly over to my Windows 10 machine or Windows 8 machine here and have my experience follow over. Also, outside of the application and the the personalization, right? I even got applications here, right? In my Windows 7 machine, I got the 7-zip application. And then when I go over to my Windows 8 machine, right, I've also got that 7-zip application as well. So users' personalization and kind of their personality, right, their little kitty cat wallpapers and the wallpapers of their kids and stuff like that, that's automatically going to be kind of transferred over, and it's going to be instant. There's not going to be any profile migration that needs to be done. There's not going to be any necessary to kind of migrate applications or anything. We're going to make that seamless. IT can deliver that Windows 10 desktop or that Windows 7 image. The user can log in, and they will instantly feel accustomed, right, to their desktop because it'll look exactly like their Windows 7 or Windows 8 desktop. So profile migrations and OS migrations essentially go away. So very, very minimal effort. And it'll also future-proof you down the road. Is that will come time when you need to do a Windows 12 migration. You don't even have to think about it. Just deploy the OS and have the user log in, and their experience will remain the same.
Great. Wonderful. Well, with that, get my screen going here. I'm just going to put up our thank you slide and just say thank you to everybody for your time today. I do want to end just with a note that we would love to come, on site, do a tailored demo presentation to actually meet the needs of what your pain points are within your organization. So please do feel free to reach out to us to set up a time or if you have any further questions. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.